Joining me now is Senator Chris Coons, a Democrat from Delaware who sits on the Foreign Relations and Judiciary Committee. Senator, thank you so much for joining us. So let's talk about Starlink, and it has been an essential asset for the Ukrainians there on the battlefield, and they've described their outages being catastrophic over the past few weeks as they've gained ground in getting back some of that territory that had been taken by Russia. I'm just curious, given this seemingly confusing, erratic, volatile, however you want to describe it, behavior by Elon Musk, the Ukrainians obviously very indebted to him for this technology. In your view, is it safe, is it wise for one man to control such crucial technology?
Well, Bianna, as Putin continues targeting civilians and civilian infrastructure across Ukraine with punishing missile strikes day after day after day, President Biden, leaders in the administration, leaders here in Congress are urging the rapid delivery of more sophisticated air defense systems, and we've gotten positive responses from our European allies and from our military. You raise a critical question about Elon Musk and Starlink. One of the key issues that has sustained Ukraine's effective resistance, not just their holding off Russian advances, but now actually retaking significant amounts of ground, is how the Russians failed in their cybersecurity attacks to shut down Ukraine's access to the internet and their ability to communicate unit to unit on the battlefield, and how Russia failed to take either air superiority or cyber superiority early in this conflict. So this is a challenge for all of us, for the administration, for everyone who wants to see Ukraine succeed, to have Elon Musk acting in a somewhat mercurial way, throwing out proposals for diplomatic resolution of a brutal war, where frankly the only acceptable outcome should be that Ukraine continues to retake its territory from Russian invaders. I am hopeful that the administration will be able to work out a path forward, either through Starlink or another service, to continue this vital support for Ukraine.
So there is the possibility of the Pentagon either providing this funding or another service replacing it.
I technologically don't know whether there is a comparable service to Starlink where it is relatively easy to deliver the systems to Ukraine. Starlink is something they've relied on for months and months now, so I'd have to get into the details. But I have to be optimistic that the West will continue to provide critical communications and air defense systems. The G7 just unanimously restated publicly their strong support for Ukraine in the face of Putin's ongoing missile attacks.
Well, we should note that Elon Musk hasn't been funding all of this himself through SpaceX. The U.S. government and other allies have been funding Starlink throughout this war. But as the war has intensified, both on the battlefield and the barrage of missiles and strikes we've seen this week into major Western cities, there has been concern, a heightened level perhaps of this turning into a nuclear escalation, with Vladimir Putin once again saying that this is something that the United States set the precedent for. The U.S. President Biden using words like nuclear Armageddon. The EU foreign policy chief said that the Russian army would be, quote, annihilated if Russia was to deploy a nuke, and NATO warned of a physical response, perhaps, if a nuclear weapon was deployed. Are you getting any intelligence, or are allies getting intelligence, that Vladimir Putin is closer to deploying a nuclear weapon today than he was a few weeks ago?
Bianna, the only insight I've got is open source insight on this exact question, which is repeated reporting that the Russians are losing on the battlefield, that Putin is increasingly desperate as his troops are retreating, abandoning positions they fought very hard to take just weeks or months ago, and that as Putin is flailing, as his troops are failing on the battlefield, there is an increased likelihood that he will use more extreme measures. He has been saber rattling throughout this entire conflict. He has tried to push back and brush back NATO, the United States, those who support Ukraine from around the world, by threatening to cut off energy supplies, by cutting off supplies of fertilizer and food, by cutting off access to other vital resources, and by threatening the use of a tactical nuclear weapon. We are doing everything we can to mobilize the world, including those countries that have stayed on the sidelines, like India and South Africa and China, to communicate to Putin that this would be a red line. That for Russia to be the first country since the Second World War to use a nuclear weapon, and the first country ever to use a nuclear weapon in a war of aggression started by Russia, would isolate them completely, would lead to their being declared a terrorist nation by the world and completely isolated.
And quickly, Senator, before I let you go, he continues to fund this war through the sale of oil. With OPEC Plus's surprising decision to slash production by 2 million barrels a day, the president promised a response, a consequential response. What will that be? Will he do, as has been proposed, ban or freeze the sale of arms to Saudi Arabia for a year?
Well, Bianna, the Foreign Relations Committee here in the Senate also has a role in that, and I think it's unlikely that we will support any additional arms sales to the Saudis. This was a punch in the gut. For us at this moment to have a long-standing partner like Saudi Arabia help Russia fund their war of aggression against Ukraine was a very bitter disappointment and a big surprise. I think you'll see both the administration and the Senate take action, and one of the most likely actions is to stop any future arms sales.
Making some news there. Senator Chris Coons, thank you. Great to see you. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Bianna.